This is where we just get to make small talk with you before we go on. So what do you think about John Delony then?
Well,
you listen to him.
hey, yeah, but I'm going to be honest. I just started listening, and
Why?
because I found out we were doing this interview, and I didn't know about John Delony before, and now I'm like totally hooked already. Because John, listen, I just started Couch to 5K, and I was doing my workout the other day and listened to your show the whole time, and I like never listen to a podcast when I'm working out, but that was so.
I remember you saying that. Well, if you do, you listen to like 5 minutes of it, and then you go to something else.
I gotta listen to music to like keep me jazzed. But that kept my attention, and now I'm just hooked. So I love it.
Well, I appreciate that. There's nothing like the listening to other people's stories and thinking, well, I'm not that.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I was feeling great about myself.
You just find yourself running faster and
yeah, I'm like, oh my.
The other problem that I have with your show is when I listen to your show and then I think, oh wait, I am that. Shoot.
That's no good. I look for like the really wild ones.
Man?
Yeah.
I get off the phone. We sometimes I'll get off the phone and during a break, and the producer will look at me and be like, "You realize you were talking to yourself just then?" No.
Heavens no.
See, this is great because I feel like John is getting to be on my side a little bit because I always feel like John Delony is my wife's
weapon.
I don't want to say weapon.
I said it for you.
What's a softer word for that, John?
I'm my wife's advocate. Yes,
advocate.
As an old college professor, I'm just trained to whatever somebody in front of me feels really solid about, I'm just going to pull it apart. So, hey, I am Team Jonathan all the way.
Come on,
and I'll give you some return volley.
Thank you. So, some other people have radio shows too. We don't usually recommend them, but there is one that's on podcast and video and YouTube and stuff like that. That is pretty darn good. His name is John Delony, and we're going to talk here for a little bit about. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about loneliness. We're going to talk about sort of these kind of things. Mm-hmm. But we got to have them all to ourselves for about 2 minutes before we went on the air. How would you sum up what that was all about, Courtney?
Oh, well, he's a great time. And I told him that I actually, in all honesty, just discovered his podcast this week. And I was listening to episodes while I was working out, which I never do. I need music to keep me going. But this was like, I was totally sucked in right away.
Yeah, and then I started telling him about my slight resentments that I have toward him because of the fact that my wife is at least as big of a fan of his show than she is of ours, and she quotes him to me all the time and stuff. So, John, good morning.
Good morning. Hey, I thought of this, Jonathan. My wife has listened to a grand total of 0 shows.
Oh, my gosh.
You can tell your wife. His own wife doesn't even listen to this nonsense.
That's
in fact, my
rough.
Wife she's threatened to call into my show and ask, how do you deal with somebody who gives relationship advice for a living but won't open?
He has a new book out right now.
Yeah, it's called Own Your Past, Change Your Future. And he's a double PhD, and he has over 2 decades of experience in counseling. He's just like full of wisdom. This
is cool. We're going to give away a copy here in just a minute, but I literally was planning to read this book, and my wife saw that I took it home, and she stole it, and now she's reading it. So, John, I don't even know what the book's about. What's it about?
Well, it's a 10-year journey, man. It's me having all the right nerd academic answers. It's me following the path that was just laid out, which is you go to school, you chase the money, you chase the title, you get married, you have a kid, you have a house, you go to church and you teach Sunday school. You do all the things, and what I've found is there's these sensational stories that people end up in rehab, and they end up, exploding their marriage, and then they all come back together. That's not most of our story. Most of us live with this low-level burn of anxiety, this low-level hum of dysthymia, of depression. Our knees hurt. We put on 5 pounds every year. We have less and less intimacy in our marriages. And our kids, we keep handing them digital babysitters because we don't know how to bridge that gap, and we just say this is normal. And I lived it. I've walked alongside people, and finally, about a decade ago, I had my moment where I said, I don't know what's happening because I'm doing the right things. I'm a pretty good guy, and I know the answers to this stuff, and why is my body saying I'm out? And so I've ultimately, I ended up taking a new job. My wife and I moved. We had a young child at the time. I got a second PhD in counseling just because I'm a nerd, and I wanted to know what is happening to my marriage, to me, to my wife, to my friends' marriages, to our communities, to our churches, to our country. What is happening? And this book is really the culmination of 10 years of that journey.
I heard you say that, like, sometimes people approach you like, would you be our counselor and stuff? And you said this is the book for that because it's so personal and it's so relatable. I have another question. People are texting in saying they like you, they like your show. Does Siri autocorrect your name to John DeLong?
Oh, my wife still misspells my name. It could be. It rhymes with the processed lunch meat, so I got shot out of the gate.
I hear that. We'll be back with Dr. John Delony. We'll give you a chance to win his book if you text the word book to 866-917-9245. All right, now we'll go into record mode here. Oh, she says she texted back. Her name is Christina. She said, yes, Siri did it. Okay. So here's what I know. Here's what else I know. I said to my wife, I said, well, at least if you're not going to let me read the book, can you at least tell me a little bit about what's a recurring theme in there? What's it about? What should I ask him about? And she said, loneliness. So what is the story there?
Wow. If you were to go back, let's say 2,000 years, and you found yourself at 6 o'clock in the morning at sunrise on the plains in Nebraska with your tribe of about 100 to 200 people, and they had left you, your body would sound every alarm it has because you were probably going to die. You were going to get eaten by something. You were going to be exposed to something, right? You weren't going to make it. And if you wind all the way back to the beginning of human history, we were designed to be in connection, in relationship, in community with other people. That's a full stop statement. And you can go all the way to to neuroscience where we're co-regulated. My heartbeat, my pupils will sync up with people in the room with me. We become the people we are around. And over the last 100, 150 years, we've entered into this ecosystem that our bodies simply aren't designed to live in. And it can be architectural, right? We didn't have air conditioners, so we had front porches, and we would wave to people and say hello to people, and then all of a sudden we live in these boxes. We used to go to concerts, and now they're just pumped in 4G into our house. You can talk about social media. You can talk about everything, but at the end of the day, we have traded transmission of information for connection. I text my wife, I love you, 15 times a day, but her body needs to see me say it and hear me say it and see my eye crinkles and see my shoulders drop and feel my body. And we simply don't have that anymore. I remember 6 or 7 years ago, I was at a university in Texas doing the onboarding, and they recommended the air high five to avoid any sort of confusion. We've taken touch out of our relationships. And again, there's some creepy idiots that we needed to, but we've just landed on a planet where we are completely and totally alone, and our bodies are ringing off the hook. It's the anxiety, the depression, the fill in your diagnostic. Our bodies are screaming at us, hey, we're not okay, we're not safe, because it knows we cannot do life alone.
So where do we go from there? Like, you know, because you're right on.
Ruiner.com right here, right? I think it's the first half of the book is just peeling back the layers here. Here's this story. We were told that our spouse would solve everything, right? We aren't, as a society, we're not going to church anymore. We're not doing collective things anymore. We've tried to dump all of our existential weight, our identity into our job titles and our salaries at work, and we now know that doesn't work. And so we've looked at our spouses and said, you have to be everything to me. You have to be my reason for being. You have to be my co-earner, my co-parent. You have to stay super attractive till you're 90 because I still have to be attracted. Like, we've put all this onto one person, and we're melting each other. And so the book just walks through, here's the things we've given up. We didn't even realize it happened. We call this normal, and it's just not. And the back half of the book is, what do you do now? How do you reconnect with other people? How do you reconnect with yourself? What are the things we can do to start plugging back in? Really, it's not as much as unplugging from the matrix, but it's replugging back into the way we were designed to live.
That is so cool. If you want to text to win this book, just text the word book to 866-917-9245. We're going to do something we've never done here before. And this is where we put both the guest and one of our hosts here on the spot. And I challenge you, Courtney, to ask, I challenge you to ask John Delony a personal dating question.
Wow, and this really is on the spot. I had no preparation for this, but I am single.
Are you dating, Courtney?
No, not currently.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm 31, and it's the digital world of dating. You know how it is. And so I guess one of my questions, shoot, I got to think about this.
She actually appreciates being put on the spot, but she's trying to act like she doesn't.
Okay, I do, but I'm trying to think of a really good one.
The best questions are the most personal ones.
Okay.
Well, that's where I'm trying to dig deep into it here.
You're not going to tell them about the guy coming to the thing. We'll leave that out. Forget about that.
Okay. I'll just throw this out there because this is something that I think a lot of people find themselves in. So, you end a relationship for one reason or another. And then one person says, "Hey, I'm still cool with being friends." And okay, I'm just going to put this really personal.
Well, would that be the guy maybe?
Let's say the guy says it. Okay. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling it. I want to just kind of whatever." And he's gracious about it. But then he says, "I'm still cool with being friends. This is a long distance thing." And so it's like, basically I'm going to keep the lines of communication open. I say, fine, as long as there's zero expectation.
And I say that is not possible.
He says, sure. Is that possible?
No. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Here's my analogy there. It's like I have a 12-year-old little boy, and he's just in a phase right now where he's obsessed with fishing. And I can tell him, "Hey, we got 5 minutes left. We got 3 minutes left. Hey, dude, we got to start packing up." And every time I say, "Hey, we got to start packing up," he throws one more line out in the water and just lets it sit while we're cleaning up, right? And he can say, "No, I'm not actually trying to catch anything. I'm just." Yes, you are. You're still fishing, right? So any sort of, no, it's cool. Yeah, no expectation. We're not trying. Yes, it's always that Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I've heard that one.
Well, we won't go into any more specifics at this time. So we'll just go back to the press release. Okay, so it says there must be a misprint because it says here that you say that it's possible to change your thoughts. Now, I thought thoughts were just. You get your thoughts, but then, like Bible says, well, what does it say? Something about think about good things, and then it talks about, really renewing of your mind and all that. But you're saying it is possible to change your thoughts. So what's that all about?
So let's do a quick game. I got this from the grief guru, David Kessler. So if you close your eyes real quick and just picture a red donkey. Just picture a red donkey, and then picture that red donkey in your front yard.
Okay.
Right, you got it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, open your eyes. You just proved to yourself you can control your thoughts. What most of us don't realize is that our brain has a series of automated things that it does to protect us, to get us through a day. It can't absorb, your processor can't absorb all of the colors and the voices and the movement. It's just too much. It would overload the system, so it offloads everything. And so what it's always trying to do is, A, keep you safe, and B, look out for you even when you don't know it's looking out for you. It's why when a certain guy who may remind you of somebody who hurt you in the past, you don't even recognize it, your heart just starts beating faster. Or my wife tells me, "Hey, we need to go." And I think, why? Because I'm a big clueless goofball. And she says, "We need to go right now." I've learned after 20 years of marriage, we need to go, right? So it's our bodies start to send signals before we even realize it. Let's take a really rough, hard situation. You lose a child. And I've sat with too many people who have experienced this. It is so hard. Their brain throws these lightning bolts of the last moments I saw my child, the funeral, these moments that it wants us to not forget this story because we don't want to end up there. We don't want to forget the pain. We don't want to let our baby go, so we're going to remember these last moments. And when those lightning bolts hit, when that thought drops in your mind, we have a choice there. We have a choice to say, I'm going to meditate on that, or to say, no, I'm moving towards something of beauty, something of peace. I've got a memory ready to go of my little one riding his big wheel around, laughing his head off, and I'm going to meditate on that. A less dramatic example is I walk in the door, and my wife's left her shoes by the door. And I say, I can instantly go to, we just talked about this. And I am now down a road of self-protection and self-righteousness of, she's doing this just to make me mad. She doesn't do, I'm working on, right? I can go down that road. Or I can see those shoes and instantly the flash of, we just talked about this, and then I can then say, her day must have been bonkers. Step in a little bit more. And I get to choose which path I follow here. That guy cuts me off on the highway. I can say, he's trying to kill us, he's on drugs. Or I can say, God, help him get to the hospital before his wife passes away.
Wow.
I get to pick which one of those stories that I meditate on. I can, over time, change my thoughts. And what's beautiful is the more we search for beauty, the more we think about positive things. This is why I love neuroscience and psychology when it begins to mesh with ancient scripture, right? The more I do this, the more our mind automates to that. It begins to find beauty. It begins to look for joy. It begins to say, okay, this is a really devastating situation, but that guy's doing really beautiful work right now. It helps us reorient our world. As the great Brene Brown says, what you go looking for in the world, you are sure to find. So when you practice controlling your thoughts over time, it lightens your day, and it unautomates your brain towards the negative and automates it towards more optimistic, more fruitful thinking.
I have a question regarding that. If you've gone through something that was traumatic, how do you differentiate between just thinking positively so that you don't think back to that and actually like healing from that, not burying it?
That's a great question that we don't have time for. We have to come back after we do the thing.
Okay.
So like in 1 minute, if you still have a minute, John, are you okay for like 2 more minutes? Okay.
I've got all day for you guys.
Awesome. So we'll just use the seconds that remain before we go back on to go back into slight manipulation mode for just a minute here. So do you ever give advice that's slightly incorrect?
All the time.
Okay.
And my show producers are happy to remind me, as is my wife.
Okay. So when my wife says, well, John Delony says, I could say, well, he did tell me personally that occasionally he gets things wrong. So this could be one of those instances.
Could absolutely be.
But probably not.
Hang on to that with both hands, man. Hang on to that tight.
He's getting my narrative, I think. Okay. 30 seconds. We'll be right back. You know, it gets talked about a lot, like today, that didn't get talked about, at least that I've noticed maybe 5-10 years ago. Trauma. That is a major thing that many of us have in our past. I went to a funeral of a guy yesterday that experienced total trauma as a veteran in Iraq and Afghanistan. And but it's a real thing in varying degrees. We're talking to Dr. John Delony today, who has a new book out. Yeah,
it's called Own Your Past, Change Your Future. And he does cover things like trauma, how stories cause trauma, and then the types of trauma that we experience. I have a question regarding trauma and thoughts, John. So if you've gone through something that was traumatic and you're trying to get past it, how do you determine whether or not you are just simply burying it and it's going to show up later, or actually thinking the right way to get past it and moving forward?
When an event or a memory of an event or a set of circumstances over a lifetime overwhelms our body's ability to handle it in the moment. And so the goal of healing from trauma, you can't undo what happened. There's a period at the end of that sentence. The goal of healing from trauma is, can I have this thought without my body immediately jumping to protect me? Can I think about that, and do I have control enough over the abusive moment, the car wreck, the divorce, my dad passed away suddenly? Can I enter into that thought without my body instantly returning to fight or flight to protect me? That's how you know I've been healed from trauma. And the goal of positive thinking, the goal of reorienting your thoughts, transforming your mind, if you will, is not to forget. That's not the point. The point is to say, how do I make meaning of these things that happened? And I can only truly make meaning. I can sprint and run and try to achieve my way out of that hurt, and that always ends in ash. How can I enter in, usually with a professional, enter into those dark times, let my body know I wasn't okay then, but I'm okay now. And then ask that one terrifying question, So what comes next? That's healing from trauma, and that's how you begin to heal from your thoughts. When that thought pops in your head from what happened in the past, you can, whew, I wasn't safe then, but I'm safe now. And now I'm on to the next thing, right? That's healing from trauma.
So if I think that's so good to be able to differentiate and understand that. So like if you were to sit down after, you're a year, 2, 3 removed from the trauma and you feel like you've begun to heal, and then if you were to like retell the story to somebody, or somebody shares a story that's similar to yours and you still respond with like tears, or it still brings feelings back, is that a sign of I haven't healed fully yet, or is that kind of going to always be an undercurrent?
No, I think I don't like the words healing from. I like healing with. If you have tears, tears are a relational lubricant, right? It says I'm in this with you. And so if you've experienced some sort of loss as a child and you're sitting with somebody as an adult and your body remembers this, there's an empathetic response. Tears become a gift. The sadness becomes a gift. I'm talking about a trauma response is my heart rate won't get below 200. I can't eat. I can't breathe. I'm having a panic attack. My neck hurts. I've got migraines all of a sudden, right? It's your body taking over. That's different than empathetically sitting with somebody. Here's an important word to remember when you're talking about healing from trauma, or more importantly, when your body just takes off on you, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling a little bit low. I had a really hard conversation with my son last night about some school stuff and just about how he's feeling about things, and he's having a hard season. He's a 6th grader. He's a middle school kid, as they all do, but it's different when it's your kid. Here's the word, and this morning I woke up feeling kind of low. I just felt low. I was in the gym, and I just wasn't feeling it. I'm curious with my body, not judgmental. And so when I feel these, like, my heart rate's taking off on me again, the question I ask is not, come on, man, what do you got to do? I say, what is my body trying to protect me from? Or what is my body trying to remind me of? And those are graceful moments. Those are curious moments that allow us to examine our bodies, examine our relationships, examine our ecosystems, and not go to war with them, but then to be able to solve some of these challenges, to go back and say, I need to deal with some of this stuff.
Love it. Text the word book if you'd like to actually win a free copy of John Delony's new book called Own Your Past, Change Your Future. Just text book to 866-917-9245. All right, I just got one more question. Although I appreciate the fact that you say Matchbox 20 is the worst and not Nickelback. To me, that is significant. About the conversation. Oh, come on. Let me get rid of this person. Hold on a second. Hello there.
Is Mr. Delany there?
Oh, I'll answer to anything you call me.
All right. Jana is on with Dr. John Delony. Go, Jana.
Mr. Delony.
Hello, Jana.
Can you talk more about neck pain? Someone I care about wakes up suddenly in the night and throws his hand to his neck. I mean, can you give us any insight on that?
Yeah, when I get stressed, and not just I've got something at work, but when I look back over the last couple of months, or in some cases the last couple of years, and I'm finding myself in a job where I have no purpose, I'm just pushing papers for somebody, when I'm sharing a bed with my wife and we're 2 inches apart, but I'm 2,000 miles away from her because I'm so busy, or she's on her projects, I'm on my phone, and she's on her iPad, when I'm disconnected from my kids, when I haven't hung out with men who keep me accountable that I love, my body responds by searing neck pain. And I exercise a lot. I'm always in the gym. It'll be a weird little tweak here, and I begin to sleep a little bit more shallow, which means everything's dysregulated. Now, it could be that you got a bad pillow, right? It could be a bad pillow. It could be an old war injury, an old football injury. All that's true. The one thing I always want people to do when you have something that hurts over time, particularly when you go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, I don't see anything here, let's try this thing, that's usually a big signal that our body's trying to get our attention. And so whenever my body hurts in strange ways, the first thing I do is I'm curious about it. I don't immediately go to the cabinet and try to put some sort of Band-Aid on it with aspirin or something. I say, what is my body trying to tell me? And almost exclusively in my life, it's relationship oriented. Either my relationship with my work, my relationship with my wife, or my relationship with my kids. Almost always. And that's a hard, miserable process to unwind from.
Well, thank you for the question there, Jana. That's a really good question.
Healing is often I got to go to a chiropractor, right? I got to go see somebody. I got to go take care of that issue, but I'm gonna deal with the relationship side.
Yeah, very good. So tell me about the. Does Tom have a question, or is he just?
I haven't asked.
Oh, okay, we'll get to that in a minute. No, that's cool. Oh, come on, John, you're making our phones ring. The conversation cards was the last question that I had. Was just I didn't know about those. What are those things? What are they good for?
So I have a buddy who was the chief information officer of a fancy university and was on the board at Apple and Google. He was a big fancy pants. He's real smart and wonderful. He calls me one day a couple of years ago, and he said, all right, and we have a love language that's pretty coarse, but he said, all right, moron, I've turned all the screens off in my living room, and now me and my 3 daughters are just staring at each other. What do we do now?
Wow.
And that was one of the insights I had into how lonely we are, is we've lost the skill set to enter into each other's spaces now. If it's not about weather, and it's not about work, and it's not about something that one of our spouses did, we have no skills to go any deeper. And so it started as I'll just, I want to get people off their phones, and so I'm going to create a deck of cards that just got a series of questions on them. And actually, my boss here, Dave, and he's talked publicly about this. He's like, dude, we're not doing that. Nobody's going to want that. And it's become one of the most important products that we put out now. In fact, I was in a meeting yesterday to create multiple decks for Girls' Night Out and for men's groups and for all different groups of people, because we have lost the ability to have conversation with one another. So it's just it's a teaching tool.
That's cool. They look very, very cool. I didn't know they were there. So that is so cool. So again, if you want to text the word book, you can enter to win his new book. The number is 866-917-9245. John, thanks for all your time. It's been a super cool chance to hang out, and thanks for everything you do, and talk to you again sometime, I guess.
Well, I'm grateful for you. I'm going to send you and Courtney your own copies of the book. That way you can read it on your own, and you don't have to read the live copy. And I'll send you all a couple of decks of the conversation.
Yeah!
Hey, yes, good.
That'll be great. We might steal some of that content for our show.
Steal all of it. It's all good.
Love it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again.